Hey there, this is Seth Schaefer from Team Just Cause Robotics. Today's video is going to be a little bit different from my normal type of content. This is going to be a bit more of a discussion, talking head style video, basically talking about the modern state of and future of combat robotics, and how I feel that this is just permanently intertwined with the future of the Norwalk Havoc Robot League, or the National Havoc Robot League, whatever they choose to call themselves going forwards, and just how much of an influential powerhouse that this competition and organization has been, and that I feel will continue to be for the future of Battlebots, the TV show, and the sport of combat robotics on the whole. Now, I want to first start out by kind of framing who I am, what I'm talking about, because I think that this video might end up going out to a bunch of people who have only ever heard of Battlebots and aren't even aware of Norwalk Havoc, or maybe they've seen a couple Norwalk Havoc videos but don't really know the full history of the event. Here's a quick timeline. In 2015, I had just graduated from high school, and Battlebots was rebooted on the ABC TV channel. 2016, Battlebots Season 2 happened. 2017, I was inspired by the reboot of the show to design and build my own first combat robot. This was the 30-pound robot called Karma. I talked a lot more about this in another video I'll link down below and in the card above. I competed at a Motorama held in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, that's still around today, and it is one of the larger combat robot tournaments in the world that isn't Norwalk Havoc. In December of 2018, the very first Norwalk Havoc competition ever happened, and you can see the first videos posted to the Norwalk Havoc Robot League channel are dated December 10th, 2018. This competition started out very, very small in a single big room of a building called 50 Day Street. In 2019, I competed in Motorama again with a 30 Sportsman bot called Conduit and a top killing saw robot that I called Top Kill. And in 2019, I also, in May, graduated from college and moved out to Framingham, Massachusetts. Now, I just started my first job out of college as a mechanical engineer, and shortly thereafter, I attended a Battlebots watch party that was hosted in Boston, and I ran into David Jin there, who told me about the Norwalk Havoc Robot League competition, and that I should go and build a robot there and compete. So that's what I did. I also happened to attend a talk given by the Valkyrie team, and shortly after that, I actually ran into Justin Marple getting bubble tea afterwards and told him I was a mechanical engineer who had a love for combat robotics, and I ended up getting invited to join the Bloodsport Battlebots team. In August of 2019, I built the very first version of Division, which looked nothing like this, and I'll show some clips of that in a minute, and competed in my very first Norwalk Havoc tournament, and from then on, I was pretty much hooked on the 3-pound Vito-weight combat circuit.
The feedback from the competitors has always been the heart and soul of how Norwalk has changed. Having the builders first, I think, will always be our top priority. They are the bread and butter of this tournament. Without them, we'd be nothing.
NHRL is controlled chaos. I would say it's mostly controlled chaos.
It's the most glorious thing you can ever lay eyes on.
This is a place to have fun and compete and learn, and that's for everyone.
This is mayhem, this is carnage, this is madness, and I love it.
We're always trying to make it inclusive and comfortable place to fight. Just come and have fun. That's all.
So, Norwalk Havoc, let's talk about it. First off, like I said, the very first Norwalk Havoc event ever was held in December of 2018, and my first Norwalk Havoc competition with Division was August of 2019. I then rebuilt Division from scratch into the orange robot that looks a bit more similar to what you see behind me now, and I competed again in the September 2019 tournament, and that video continues to be viewed by hundreds of people every month. You'll notice if I pull up real quick here that viewership to Team Just Cause Robotics and viewership to Norwalk Havoc's channels were actually pretty similar. And while I always trailed behind Norwalk Havoc in subscriber count, it was only by about 1,000 subscribers or so for most of the history of my channel. Now, let me show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So this is the total subscribers for Team Just Cause Robotics monthly. Now, you can see I had a bit of a growth spurt going from November into May of 2021, and around, April 2021, I had 2,400 subscribers. Now, if you look at the Norwalk Havoc monthly subscriber growth, you'll see in, March, April 2021, they had 3,370 subscribers. So, sure, it was like not quite twice as many as my channel, but they still had like 1,400 more subscribers than me. However, you will notice an interesting change in this graph right around here in March of 2022. They went from 7,000 subscribers very quickly to over 16,000 by June. And much more recently, you'll see they went from 20,000 in December to over 60,000, and now I believe they're almost at 90,000 subscribers as of time of this recording, March 5th, 2023. So if I look at their channel currently, they're at 88.8 thousand subscribers. That is very significant growth in a very short time. Interestingly, another thing you'll note is if you look at the history of Norwalk Havoc's videos posted to their channel, let's look at all videos and let's just scroll down really, really far. As we keep scrolling down, you'll notice these view counts are not very high. In fact, the vast majority of videos posted to Norwalk Havoc's channel of any fight have less than 1,000 views. So during the early years of Norwalk Havoc, like 2019 and 2020, I would honestly say, I think, not to toot my own horn, but the Team Just Cause Robotics YouTube channel potentially brought more widespread attention to Norwalk Havoc's competitions than Norwalk Havoc themselves actually managed to. I still have this event recap, which is one of the first videos that I ever posted to my channel, and it has 3,900 views now. It was posted 3 years ago, and this is my recap from the September 2019 event. So there were actually a significant number of people that were finding out about Norwalk Havoc just by watching my videos for quite a while. But that has all changed in 2022, and especially now going into the start of 2023, due to both Battlebots beginning to bring attention to the fact that Norwalk Havoc exists, and so many of the competitors from Norwalk Havoc themselves are now starting to compete at Battlebots and cutting their teeth in the smaller weight classes with 3, 12, and 30-pound robots at Norwalk, which they then learn the skills needed to build larger robots from and are now applying to Battlebots. This is where bots like Emulsifier came from. Started as a 30-pound bot, now it's on Battlebots. It's where bots like Ripperoni came from. It started as a 3-pound that evolved into a 30-pound, competed at Norwalk Havoc, and now it's on Battlebots. That's where Starchild came from. Started as a 3-pound, then it became a 30-pound in Norwalk Havoc, and then it became a Battlebot. I mean, this is not an uncommon story. Even Pain Train. I mean, Pain Train was the Shred-It Bro team. They had been winning Norwalk Havoc tournaments with their 3-pound Shred-It Bro. They designed and built Pain Train, redesigned it, and now they're competing with a 250-pound Shred-It Bro as well on Battlebots. So the history of Norwalk Havoc and Battlebots is already very closely tied because Battlebots requires an application process to get on the show, and they want to know that if you're willing to spend months building a robot, that when you get invited to go on TV, that it'll actually not suck. Next, I am going to talk about the explosive growth of Norwalk Havoc and how that, I think, might feed back into Battlebots eventually, and kind of how they are going to interact in the future. But before that, I'd like for you to leave a comment down below. What was your introduction to Norwalk Havoc if you had heard of it before? Did you find out about it from one of my videos? Did you find out about it from a social media channel that Norwalk Havoc has created now, TikTok, Instagram Reels, etc.? And what are your impressions from their social media presence so far? I'm really interested to hear what a layperson who hasn't been involved with it for as long as I have has to say on that front. Also, before I move on to that though, I would like to have a little bit of a word about our sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay is a fabrication service that produces PCBs, CNC fabrication, 3D printing, sheet metal work, all sorts of stuff. They have really democratized manufacturing to the point that it is used widely by lots of combat robot builders competing at Norwalk Havoc, in fact, now, to be able to get a designed part that you design on your computer actually fabricated with professional CNC equipment or other professional devices that are used for PCBs, etc. And they've really democratized that mass manufacturability that the industry has to the everyday person. I mean, sure, it's a little bit expensive, but the fact that you can do it at all now is so different from how things were even 10 or 20 years ago. Like, if you wanted to get something fabricated on a CNC machine, you better have a buddy that happened to work in a local machine shop, because otherwise there was no way that was going to happen 15 years ago. Whereas today, you design a part, you send it off to a website like PCBWay, and put a drawing along with it if it needs to be ultra precise. They give you a quote for some number of tens or hundreds of dollars, and then you hit go, and you get a part in your doorstep within less than a month. That is truly incredible, and as always, I'd like to thank PCBWay for supporting this channel and allowing me to do this for all of you. Alright, now for this next portion of the video, I want to start to talk a little bit about some speculation I have about the future of Norwalk Havoc and Battlebots and how they will affect each other moving forwards. And because I don't want you to get super bored just watching my mouth moving, I'm going to also play this highlight reel that I made of Division. This was posted back in March of 2020, so very, very early versions of Division at the very, very early Norwalk Havoc tournaments, which were very small. So, Norwalk Havoc used to be a very tiny competition held at 50 Day Street. The competition had maybe like 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 robots at each one, and the events were really small, and you were fighting for a cash prize of up to $1,000 with the second place team getting $300. I mean, that was unheard of. When Norwalk Havoc was operating these early events with this huge cash prize, pretty much every other combat robot event you could hear of, the best thing you would get is like a $50 gift card or a pile of broken parts that you get to walk home with. So having a competition with only 20 or 30 entries where you could win $1,000, that's just insane. So that started out growing Norwalk Havoc from the competitors' side, but people just frankly weren't finding out much about it. It was only really spreading through, like I said, my YouTube channel, showing people that it existed, and Norwalk Havoc's own videos and live streams getting occasionally viewed by super diehard Battlebots fans that were actively looking to find robot combat content online. I mean, that was never going to grow very fast, because almost everybody who knew about robot combat, in the United States at least, was finding out about it by watching Battlebots. But that's all really starting to change, and that's because of how Norwalk Havoc is approaching social media and how Battlebots has consistently failed to do so. Now, Norwalk Havoc hired a CEO to manage this new company, startup company essentially, a year and a half ago, Kelly Bitterman, I believe. And Kelly's job was essentially to turn Norwalk Havoc from something that lost hundreds of thousands of dollars every event to a sustainable growing business and something that could sustainably grow the sport of combat robotics as a whole. Now, I know you're probably thinking, but Battlebots is growing the sport of combat robotics, isn't it? Well, no. Battlebots is a TV show where you have to apply and get accepted to compete. And as we saw this most recent season, they cut the number of robots from 64 down to just over 50 in this most recent season, and it seems as though that 50 number is probably where it's going to stay moving forward, because Battlebots' incentive is almost purely to just be an entertaining TV show and show the best 50 robots in the world killing each other, whereas Norwalk Havoc is actively trying to grow this sport, and they are doing everything they can to make it as accessible to anybody who wants to compete there to do so. So if we look at my YouTube channel, the most viewed videos on my channel are these ones. We've got my Tombstone vs. Captain Shredder Eater video, my Hydra vs. Huge video, and then number 3, my Norwalk Havoc recap from November of 2020. That's kind of insane. Like, 22,000 people watched this video, and people keep watching it, hundreds a month keep watching it now. And you can see another 2020 Norwalk Havoc video. I mean, these videos vastly outpaced what Norwalk Havoc was putting out at the time. But that has all changed in 2022, and especially the last 6 months where they've really upped their social media game. And I mean, you can see the result right here. I mean, this is crazy growth. This is absolutely insane. They literally 5x'd their number of subscribers, essentially, from the last, like, 6 months. Like, that's almost unheard of. And it's because they are starting to market on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels. I mean, they're doing all the things that any small startup should be doing, but like doing it really well. And not only that, but one of the biggest things that was preventing more people from watching Norwalk in these early months was there were only 2 types of videos posted. There was individual fights, which they've axed completely because no one was watching them, as I showed before. And then there was the entire streams. Now, live streaming content historically compared to edited videos, like the videos I produce on my channel, does really, really badly. I mean, you're talking with a channel that had, 20,000 subscribers. Let's see, I don't even know, but let's look at like a 2022, an earlier 2022 event for the sake of a more fair comparison. The 2022 finals stream, 16,000 views, right? I mean, that's kind of nothing for a channel with, almost 90,000 subscribers. Literally, since I've been looking at this, they went from 88.8 to 88.9 thousand. I mean, this is an 11-hour live stream. It's practically unwatchable for a casual fan. And that is not something that would ever change, because that's just the nature of live stream long form content. It's never really going to be digestible. But what Norwalk has done that I think is incredibly smart is they have started to package it into something closer to a TV show like Battlebots. So they now have This is Havoc. So the This is Havoc series is these videos that are short and easily digestible. They even have these hour-long specials that are kind of just like an episode of BattleBots TV show. It's like 1-2 hours long, right? If you watch BattleBots on Discovery Plus, it's about an hour and 15 minutes with no ads for those 2-hour aired on Discovery Channel episodes. And here they're talking a 45-minute video that's got 44,000 views. All right, that's not even the best example, but like, here's a This is Havoc with 234,000 views. I mean, that's crazy. And this is still an hour-long digestible format. So by making this move towards social media optimization, Norwalk is vastly growing and rapidly growing their audience. And that in turn has started to flip and now get more and more competitors to keep trying to fight, because they want to get the clout to show up on this live stream, or at least be able to show their family and friends the video of their robot killing the other person's robot on the stream. And I think that's incredible, but it does have one really big downside, and that is we competitors are simply starting to get squeezed out by all of the other competitors. I mean, like I said, when this competition was starting out, there were 20, 30 robots at a competition. The most recent Norwalk Havoc event in January, there were like 120 robots. And this competition that's happening on March 18th currently has over 200 robots registered to compete. So they had to completely change the event format from double elimination in 2022 to being a new modified single elimination format in 2023. And they just changed the format again because a lot of builders were upset about that, and they still really care about the builders' feedback. I don't want to fault Norwalk Havoc for this at all. I'm not trying to say Norwalk Havoc bad because they are putting viewership first and builders second. That's not what I'm saying at all. I don't think that Norwalk Havoc is trying to put the builders second necessarily, but I think that it's an almost inevitable side effect of this huge marketing push. And quite frankly, there is no single facility on Earth that will be easily able to sustain 300, 400, 500 robot tournaments. It's just never going to happen. They're going to have to expand. And I think that is very obvious to them as well. I don't think I'm telling them anything new. I think it's very clear that it's been in the cards for them for many months to expand outside of this one location in Norwalk, Connecticut, and start opening up more tournaments throughout the United States, and potentially even throughout the rest of the world years down the line. Originally, there were talks of maybe someday having Norwalk Havoc host a Battlebots-sized 250-pound fighting robot tournament, in fact. But personally, I think that would be a mistake. I think that the Battlebots model simply doesn't work in single-day live content. And it doesn't work for the competitors either, because repairing a BattleBot, as I have firsthand experience with, takes a really long time. I mean, we are talking what would take a Beetleweight 20 minutes to repair on a BattleBot could easily be a half a day affair, because it is just so much more work to maintain these huge robots. You're never just pulling one component out and putting another component in. I mean, you're talking like easily removing dozens and dozens of bolts just to access the batteries on most BattleBots. Whereas in a Beetleweight, like, I'll have 4 screws to take off my top panel on division. And the robots also are dishing out so much energy to each other that the arena is millions of dollars for BattleBots. Whereas for Norwalk Havoc, I actually helped them design their 12-30 pound arena a little bit, and I know for a fact that it costs under $100,000 to build. In fact, I think it's about half that much, potentially even, to build if you don't factor in all the camera equipment and stuff. So it's much, much easier for Norwalk Havoc to scale their competition by opening more locations and building more arenas, with about $5,000 a pop for a Beetleweight arena and about $50,000 a pop for a 30-pound arena, than it is for BattleBots to scale to another $2, $3, $4, $5 million arena. It's just never going to happen. We are getting to this point where the social media presence of Norwalk is almost on par with that of BattleBots. And quite frankly, BattleBots just sucks. They suck at social media, and they're going to keep getting outpaced until they do something about it. BattleBots, like I said before, is a TV show first and foremost, and a competition second. Norwalk Havoc, I think, is kind of trying to have it both ways, but it's not really going to work that well, I think, to try and have it be builder focused and show first, right? I think that Norwalk is really more interested in expanding the sport of combat robotics and making it accessible to as many people as possible who want to compete, and they have said this openly several times. Now, having no registration fee. I mean, Norwalk, to enter, it costs $25, and then they refund you as long as you show up with your robot and pass safety. So there's no entry fee. There's a huge cash prize, bigger than any other small competition in the entire world. And by small, I mean the robot's less than 200 pounds, basically. BattleBots has no interest in growing to more than 50 robots for the main TV show or hosting more than one event a year, whereas Norwalk is consistently hosting 6-7 events a year. They're hosting an event like every other month. I mean, they just had one in January, and now I'm going to be going to the next one in March. So Norwalk's approach has obviously been to host events as frequently as possible and let people keep iterating on their robots and coming back time after time again, making the robots better and better and better. And quite frankly, it's obvious to almost anybody who's seen a competition in person or multiple competitions in person at Norwalk that they are a cut above almost any other local competition in the entire country. And it's simply because there's this concentrated talent of people who get to iterate and iterate and iterate and iterate. I mean, BattleBots has happened 7 times in the modern era. We've had world championships 1 through 7, but Norwalk Havoc has 7 competitions every year. So they're able to iterate 7 times as fast. These Beetleweights, I mean, Division, I had to redesign from scratch because it just couldn't keep up with the competition with the frame that I had built for version 2 to get to a version 3 that would not completely suck. And that's not a bad thing. The level of competition getting higher and higher is really cool to see. But at the same time, it does have the downside of making it a lot harder for new people to enter into the sport, because it's really hard to come from having no skills whatsoever to having a competitive robot that can compete with the best of the best in the entire world, especially when we're now talking about over 100 robots potentially in every tournament from now on. The competitive landscape is growing at a pace almost equal to that of the number of competitors at Norwalk. I mean, they went from 20 to 30 competitors in 2019 and 2020 to up to 100 competitors in 2022 to now 200 competitors at the beginning of 2023. And like I alluded to before, I do think that ultimately the only way to curb the number of competitors at each competition is for them to just host more tournaments in more locations around the country. While each competition still might be pulling in, hundreds of bots, or at least 100 robots, if they don't impose some sort of a cap on the number of competitors at each event, then they really do need to just have more events a year, ideally in multiple locations, in order to be able to deal with the increasing demand from competitors to have a place to fight their bots. Because Norwalk Havoc is now the most high-profile event that isn't Battlebots, period. It's not even close. There's nothing that comes even close in the entire world to the amount of online attention that Norwalk Havoc has gotten. And that's really incredible accomplishment for them and their team. I think what they're doing is incredibly impressive, and obviously it's incredibly effective at getting more eyeballs on the sport of combat robotics. And as a competitor myself, I commend them on doing such a great job with that. I think it's wonderful, but it's also going to come with these growing pains now. They now have to figure out what the heck to do about 300 robots signing up for an event, 400 robots signing up for an event, right? And they already had to change the format of the event completely, because double elimination, if there's 200 robots entered, it would be like almost 400 fights. So they did the modified single elimination. That cut out a considerable portion of the fights, but it didn't reduce it by half. And now they've modified the event format again for this March tournament, and it's still modified single elimination, and it's still going to result in a similar number of fights to their previous format, a slightly more even compared to the number of robots. But all that they were able to do with that was stick a little band-aid on the problem. I mean, the events used to end at 1, 2 in the morning when there were like 100 robots in double elimination. They got an event to end at like 10 p.m. or whatever by switching to a modified single elimination, even with a similar sized event. But now this next event is, 150% growth over that previous one. And it's gonna probably end up ending at 1 or 2 a.m. again. So if they don't want events to run for such a long time, the only choice is to either go to 2-day event format, or they're going to have to open up more locations and more events and start capping how many people can show up at each one. And that's going to probably suck for the short term, but I think it's still going to be amazing in the long run when we have so many competitions around the world that all have this incredible live stream and are producing this amazing content that's getting eyeballs on it that maybe have never even heard of Combat Robots before. I mean, I've had people that I know tell me that they had been recognized on the street because Norwalk Havoc posted a TikTok with them with their robot that got like millions of views. That's an amazing, wonderful thing. But at the same time, it also means that millions of people are seeing Norwalk Havoc and finding out about it and saying, wait, I could do that. I could build a robot. I could buy a kit. I could show up there and compete. And as that happens, obviously, rising tide lifts all boats. It's going to help me as somebody running a business in the combat robotics space. It's going to help Battlebots because there's going to be even more incredible competitors who are cutting their teeth at these smaller weight classes trying to gravitate up to, Battlebots still being kind of the highest level of competition because it's this application-based thing that you have to prove that you're good to get into. But it's also going to mean that for a short time now, I project probably the next year, probably all of 2023 and maybe some of 2024, we're going to be in this annoying middle ground where Norwalk Havoc is based in this one location and the number of people who want to compete there is just way too big and has vastly outgrown it. And I have full faith that they will fix that eventually, but it's definitely not going to happen overnight. And once that does start to happen, I think in the long run, years down the line, it's going to still continue to be the case that Norwalk Havoc is changing the landscape of what robot combat is. And there might be National Havoc League competitions in, 2, 3, 4, 5 different states in the United States. They might have 100 robots at every tournament, but now you're seeing a total of, 500, 600 competitors competing every other month. And that is really, really cool. And I think that it will be great for the sport of combat robotics as a whole to legitimize the sport, get in front of more people, and most importantly, of course, to allow more people than ever to compete. So I think that Norwalk Havoc very well could be in 2-3 years time more popular than Battlebots. Maybe they have their own TV show. Maybe they even have multiple different competitions where there's a rookie league and a pro league. I don't know how it's going to shake out, but I do think that the future of robot combat is looking more and more like it's in the hands of the NHRL team. So please, from not only my own eyes, but those of the rest of the combat robotics community that currently exists and is continuing to grow, don't fuck it up. I hope the people at Norwalk Havoc watch this video and like what I had to say and aren't mad at me about something else I said or got horribly wrong. But I just wanted to get my perspective out there and just, muse on what I think that this means for the future of robot combat. Sorry for such a long ranting type of video. This probably won't be a usual thing for me, but if you did happen to like this, make sure to click the like button. I'm also really interested to hear what your takes are, as whatever perspective you come from down in the comments down below. Make sure to leave a comment. And if you want to see Division killing stuff or SSP fighting as well, and I'll even at this March event that's coming up in a couple weeks have a second SSP kit fighting under the name Shameless Self-Advertising driven by somebody else. I'll be reporting on all of those event recaps coming up, so make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon to get notified when those come out. And as always, thanks for watching.